have a good side?
Okay. Hello, everyone. First of all, we are filming, or Stormy's team are filming, so if you would rather not be on film when the camera pans around, just put your hand up and we'll take a note and make sure you're not. Okay, well, great. Stormy Daniels is an American adult film star and director. She has won numerous industry awards and is a member of the NightMoves, AVN, and XRCO Halls of Fame. She rose to international fame in 2018 after beginning a legal dispute with President Trump and his personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, over hush money, which she was paid to deny she had an affair with Donald Trump a decade earlier. She has recently started Spooky Babe, a paranormal investigation show. First of all, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure to have you. You're worldwide known as Stormy Daniels, but of course, you were born Stephanie Clifford. What should I call you?
Stormy.
Stormy, okay, great.
I have legally changed my name.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Amazing, okay. So, you're known as Stormy, but you're also known by many as the person...
Pain in the ass?
No. As the person who had a sexual encounter with Donald Trump.
That's being very kind.
No, I think
it wasn't
so.
much of an encounter.
Well, tell us about, I can't imagine what it's like to be known for that. Tell us about it.
To be known for that is pretty terrible. I mean, come on, imagine, we've all done things, or people we're a little ashamed of. Imagine your worst encounter times 1,000, spray painted orange, and put it on TV. Yeah. So that's the funny part. Like, we all have these people that we wish we hadn't, are a little regretful. Imagine like your biggest mistake, the entire world knowing. So there's that aspect, of course, and I make a joke of it, but it is really true. The other part of that is the slower, impactful one, but the most difficult for me, is that when this came out, I had sort of already began to transition out of being known as a porn star and known as a director and producer. And it took a long time to get there because a lot of people didn't want to take a female director seriously. It's more accepted now, but this was, 15 years ago, I guess. And they were like, oh, she's just big tits and blonde hair. They just slapped her name on it. I wonder who really directed it. And this is a true story. My first movie that won a bunch of awards got a glowing review. The name of the movie is Operation Desert Stormy, and it won everything. And it was called Best Adult Movie Ever Made. Wonder who really directed it. And that's like a terrible blow. So I fought really hard, and Marcus was actually on that film with me. He remembers that. He can tell you I did all the work. And so just to have this uphill battle to be known as that. And I got some mainstream projects in the works, which is kind of unheard of as someone coming from the adult industry, especially a female that looks like me. And so I had really transitioned out of that and worked very hard to be known as a respected and legitimate director, producer, writer. I directed some music videos, some mainstream horror stuff. But honestly, for the rest of my life, anytime somebody hears the name Stormy Daniels, what are you going to think of? Yes. And it's just, it kind of undid the worst 90 seconds of my fucking life, undid 15 years of hard work. So yeah, and so that was something really, it kind of ruined the identity that I had created for myself.
Yeah, of course. And kind of thinking about porn, I heard you say in another interview, porn is the only business that you could think of where women make more money than men.
Yes.
I wonder if you think the porn industry is a place where women can monetize and monopolize their bodies, where they're going to get monetized anyway. Do you think there's a sort of a deep empowerment and feminism in porn?
I do, and perhaps it didn't start out that way. That was before my time, even though I'm ancient at this point. Porn years are like dog years. I died a long time ago and no one told me. Kind of like the Keith Richards of porn. But I think as women have found their voices. Part of that goes to the Me Too movement. I have, strangely enough, been credited with part of that, both because of speaking out publicly against what was, he fancies himself the most powerful man in the world, but, and like I said, really paving the way as a director in the business. Now it's more common. We've also seen a change in the platforms. It's the big studios with the creepy producer and the casting couch. That whole thing is, although I never saw a casting couch, I'm kind of disappointed actually. As a producer, I didn't get a casting couch to audition cute boys on, and girls. But the changing of the platforms, creators being able to make their own content, OnlyFans, whatever, Pornhub, all that stuff, has really put the power back into the creators' hands, because I don't know if you guys are aware, but one of the worst things about the adult industry is there's no royalties. So you get paid the day that you do your sex scene, a flat rate, and then that company or the producers can then take that scene and edit it 10 different ways, put it in 10 different movies or more. They can comp it, they can put it on every single site, and you don't get any extra money. So as I've seen the technology and the platform shift and the creators have more control, and even if you just go into things like NFTs and stuff like that at this point, women have really been able to create their own content and say, I don't want to do that. I don't feel pressured to do that. So yes, I feel like it's very empowering, and we've seen the content become more diverse. That's just my opinion.
So do you think the future of porn, or sort of pornographic content, is going towards self-uploaded OnlyFans?
Absolutely. And for me, selfishly, that's a double-edged sword for me, because I did come from the feature side. I did come from a huge company. I'm still under contract with Wicked Pictures. I've been there for almost 20 years, and we make big-budget adult films. We have scripts and so much paperwork. People think that directing porn is not a real job. So much paperwork. But we have crews and location agreements and insurance and camera rental and lighting and all of these things. The company I work for anyway was considered a big budget film company, and you could take the sex scenes out and the storyline and the movie value was still the same. But because that's going away, because people are creating their own content and uploading it, the studios are losing money. So as a director and producer on this side, I see my budgets getting slashed, and therefore I'm like, it's ruining my art. But the other side of that sword is that it is really nice to see the creators, male and female, take control of their content, their bodies, what they want to put out, and their money, honestly.
And you've obviously, throughout your battles with the US legal system, been subject to disgusting misogyny. Do you think that the porn industry itself is misogynistic?
I think that that's tough, because I think that everything is a little bit misogynistic. It's getting better every day. Just in my short time, I've seen attitudes really change, and women do some amazing things and fight and become fearless, and we've definitely made a lot of progress. But I will say that I think that the adult industry is the most progressive. They did give me an opportunity to start directing. They did give me an opportunity to write my own scripts, to choose my talent. And as you mentioned earlier, it is the only industry I know where women usually get paid sometimes double what the men make. And it's a little screwed up, honestly, because the guy's job is way harder. No pun intended. Because I can just spit on it and smile and you won't know, but you actually, but you actually have to be able to perform. That's why there's so many adult film actresses, and you see the same 20 guys over and over. So the guys have way more difficult of a job, and they don't get paid as much.
So many women and men, when they're sort of leaving the world of pornography, stripping, sex work, experience workplace discrimination, or even discrimination in general. Can you talk about this?
Oh, fuck yes, I can. So this has been the biggest thing the biggest disappointment in coming from the adult industry is because people who don't agree with the adult business, who don't want us to do it, for the 20 years I've been in, I have people say, oh my God, you're too pretty to be in porn. I'm like, well, first of all, you want to watch ugly people have sex? That's on you. Second is you don't want me to do it, whatever your reasons for being against porn is, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but you won't let us do anything else. And I witnessed it really firsthand just being a director for so long. I was directing a big budget movie every month for Wicked Pictures. So I got to really know the talent, the female talent. And there were these girls that would come in and they did everything right. They saved their money. They could only work on Wednesdays and Thursdays because the rest of the days they had classes, or they couldn't shoot past 7 p.m. because they had an exam in the morning. I got to really know these girls and some of their schedules, what days I could, which girl would be available. And I saw some of these girls sitting between takes, writing papers and studying. They didn't spend their money on purses or go out partying and drinking. They didn't get caught up in any of that. They were smart. They had no student loans. They did the adult business right. They exploited it to their advantage. And I cannot tell you how many of these women that were so brilliant, I would get to know them, and then they would leave the business. They would go on. They would graduate. They would become very often nurses for some reason, nurses or teachers or anything like this. And within 2 years, I would say that 80% of them came back. And it was when they came back is when they were broken. Because when they left, they were excited about their new life. They were educated. They had done everything right. They had paid off their student loans. Perhaps they bought a car. Perhaps they bought a home. They were excited to be whatever it was that they wanted to be. And they kept getting recognized in the hospitals or the doctor's offices or the schools, wherever it was they worked, and getting fired over and over. And it was when they came back to me, because they had nowhere else to go, when they came back to the adult business, that's when I saw these women take a dark turn, and many of them committed suicide. And that's the sad part, because it wasn't porn who broke these women, it was the public. And you don't want us to do porn, but you won't let us do anything else. And I experienced that firsthand in the last 4 or 5 years. First of all, when I came out and I spoke out, you never saw my name that didn't say porn star in front of it. Porn star Stormy Daniels, in parentheses, real name Stephanie Clifford. First of all, do you see Bruno Mars' real name or Lady Gaga every time they're, mentioned? No, it's because we're not considered human as much, and they didn't care about endangering us. Would it have been as awesome to read the headlines? Accountant Stormy Daniels, Professor Stormy Daniels. No, it's not salacious. It's not, it's not exciting. So they always defined me before they even said my name. I was defined by the word porn star, like it was something bad. And because of that, people thought I couldn't possibly be telling the truth. What, because I suck dick for a living, I don't know the truth? Sorry, I'm really terrible. One thing has nothing to do with the other. I'm not credible because of my very legal tax-paying job. I'm stupid. I don't know what really happened. I'm sorry. I figured out how to make the most money doing the least amount of work. I think I'm fucking brilliant. But because of that, they didn't believe my story. And I think that even has transcended to now, when I'm sure most of you, I don't know how up to date most of you are, but I fought my case all the way up to the Supreme Court and it got rejected. And Trump was awarded attorney's fees and I owe almost $600,000, which is way more than I have. And I do believe, how is this possible? How is this fair when it was proven without a doubt that I was not lying? They have all of the hard evidence. As a matter of fact, another man who confessed and came forward, Michael Cohen, was arrested and served almost 3 years in federal prison. So there was a man who actually did time for Donald Trump's crimes, and they wouldn't take my side. And they didn't have to award me money. They just had to say, it was defamation, because he went publicly and said that I was a liar. He also called me a bunch of other stuff that I kind of agree with. But he called me a liar, and he turned his followers and the media on me and made my life a living hell. I was shot at. My daughter was kidnapped. I lost my marriage. I lost my home. I lost my job for a while. I lost a lot of my friends. So my whole world was turned upside down because he called me a liar, and I said I'm not lying, and sued him for defamation to clear my name. And even though there was absolutely irrefutable evidence saying that I was not lying, the United States justice system would not take my side. In the beginning, it was because they didn't want to go against a sitting president, because there was no precedent set for that kind of thing. But I really believed if I just kept fighting, then once he was out of office, they would go after him. And it was just, he just beat me in court, which now just started this whole new slew of his followers coming after me again, saying, we know you were a liar. I'm like, no, it wasn't found that I was a liar. It was found that what he tweeted about me wasn't considered defamation because he was a celebrity, and it was hyperbole, which is complete and utter horseshit, because I guarantee if I was some sweet little housewife from the Midwest and he attacked me like that, they probably would have been more likely to throw, not even side, I understand, but just throw the case out. But instead, they've awarded him all of this money, and it's really screwed up, because I do believe that if I had a different profession and I wasn't in the adult business and I wasn't a sex worker, that it would have been different. And then more recently, professionally speaking, going all the way back to your question, so I know it was a very long-winded answer, but I'm very fucking bitter, is that, like I was saying, you don't want us to do porn, but you won't let us do anything else. And so I did leave the adult business about 4 years ago, mostly just because I was kind of busy. And I wanted to go back into mainstream directing and all this other stuff. And I did start a television show. This is a whole separate thing about paranormal. And we've shot for 14 episodes. I invested my own money. You can see it on YouTube. You can see the trailer and stuff on YouTube. It's very high quality. It's very well done. We have some great evidence, great characters on the show. It's very well made. And no one will touch it because there's a porn star in the show. And what does that have to, that shouldn't matter. So about 3 months ago, I decided, you know what? I get treated the same as a former porn star as I do a current one, so I might as well just go back and have the money and orgasms. Screw it.
So you mentioned that sort of this being accused of lying, and if you don't mind me jumping back to your childhood, at age sort of 12, 13, I think you were sexually abused. Nine. And consequently, you were accused for lying. I think of the painful parallels between this and Trump's denial of your encounter. What was that like, and how has that affected the scandal that came?
Well, I don't think it affected the scandal, per se, because nobody really knew about that.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, obviously, there was a man who lived in the neighborhood who was molesting a lot of the girls who... And I never told this before my book came out because I didn't want people to think that's why I did porn, because it just seems so cliche. But I can promise it's not why. It's a totally separate thing. But a friend, another girl who, if you've read the book, it's mentioned in the book. I don't remember what name we used because it is the only name we did change in the book to protect her. She got, something came out where she had to confess, and she was considered from a nicer family and very well liked, and I don't know what the word for it is in the UK, but I was white trash. My mom was never home. People thought I smoked because my mom smoked inside. It was just nobody, we were trash, point blank, we were trash. And so when she came forward and a couple other girls did, I told the school counselor that it had happened to me too, and I could just tell that he didn't flat out say he didn't believe me, but where they were like, oh my God, you poor little thing. I just wasn't treated with the same concern. And then to make it worse, the police came to the house when I was 10, and my mother, who was a fucking piece of shit, made me lie to the police and say that it didn't happen because she said they would call Child Protective Services and take me away, and then she wouldn't get her child support money. My parents were divorced, just for the record. My father didn't know about any of this. And so she made me recant my story. Does this sound familiar? It's like history repeated itself with the Trump stuff. And my mom was like, they'll take you away. They'll put you in an orphanage. I don't think they still have fucking orphanages. Anyway, I was terrified. So I said, yeah, well, then it got around school that I had made it up for attention, but I didn't. And then I just had to, I heard adults whispering about me behind my back, and nobody believed me because I was trash. And then fast forward to, 20-something years later, and literally the same thing happened all over again.
Yeah, so tough. And with your mum, if you don't mind talking a bit more about her, I know that you sort of started with stripping, and you were really studious, and then sort of a money situation with your mum kind of meant that you didn't go to college.
Yeah, she's a real peach, let me tell you. So growing up, I loved horses, and I would buy horses from the slaughterhouse and retrain them to jump and sell them, but I don't know what the laws are here or even what they are in the States now, but when you were underage, you had to have an adult co-sign on your bank account, and I wanted to be a veterinarian, an equine vet, so badly. I trained, I did internships. I was actually accepted to Texas A&M for veterinary medicine on a full scholarship. I'm not as dumb as I look. But it still costs money to move and to eat and all of these things. And so I worked really hard through high school and was depositing money into this account. And then when I got that acceptance letter, I think I would have been the only person in my entire family to have gone to college. I asked my mom for the money, and she straight-faced looked at me and was like, "What money?" I was like, "The money I've been putting into an account for 3 years? I needed it." I have no idea to this day what she did with it. I wish I could tell you she was a drug addict or an alcoholic or a gambling, or she liked prostitutes. No, literally I have no idea what she did with it. This is the same woman that a few years later dug up and stole my jacuzzi out of my yard. She's a peach. And so I wasn't able to go. So long story short, that ended up with a huge fight. I moved out when I was 17. I didn't want to drop out of school because I still had high hopes of being a veterinarian. Met a girl at a party, one thing led to another. Everything happens for a reason, right? Found out she was a stripper, went to the club, told them that I was a friend of hers. They didn't bother to check my ID because I said I knew her. And I started dancing, which was honestly the best thing to ever happen to me because I was able to make enough money on Friday and Saturday nights to not drop out of high school. And of course, well, not you people because you're actually at a university, but I'll go back later. I'll just make some money, and one thing led to another, and well, now I'm sitting here.
No more
talking about my vagina.
So you've gone off the vet?
Yeah, I never went. I never went back. I started having too much fun dancing, and then I started doing movies. I went to California and I started working for Wicked Pictures, and that's when I do think that I have no regrets. I do think everything happened for a reason. I was pretty sad about it at first, mostly because the choice was kind of taken from me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But looking back, I'm actually quite pleased because that is a thankless job with a lot of debt, and veterinarians have the highest suicide rate, even more than porn stars, go figure. And I found my true calling about a year into porn when I had no idea what I was going to do with my life, and I directed my very first movie, and halfway through that first day, I'm standing at the top of the stairs ordering people around, watching a script that I had written come to life, and the nicer part of me was like, oh my God, this is what I meant to do. This is what I truly love, and I've been directing for 17 years now, and that gave me the opportunity to find this thing that never crossed my radar. The other part of me was like, I am the puppet master. They have to do whatever I say.
So we've heard tonight that you've been treated horribly, sort of by US justice system, time and time again. But it's not all bad. Michael Avenatti, who represented you in your lawsuit against Trump, and then went on to defraud you and stole from you, he was recently imprisoned and ordered to pay you back. How does that feel?
I wish it made me feel better than it does. First of all, I'll never see a dime of that money. He doesn't have it. He's millions in debt with the IRS and taxes and his child support. He already filed bankruptcy multiple times. I'm never going to see the money. It sounds like a great thing, but it's gone forever. And he was sentenced to 4 years in prison, which is a slight victory, but how fucked up am I that I actually feel bad? because this was a person that I truly did believe was a friend, and I don't know what could have happened to make him go that hard against me. But the stuff, I don't know if anyone followed the case, that was a complete and utter joke, which go back to some of your other questions about misogyny and women. So Michael Avenatti, for those, I'll just give a quick recap. He was my attorney. I did a book deal. He forged my signature and sent it to the literary agent and said that I changed the wire information for my payments and started embezzling all the money from my book sales, which was quite a bit. It was New York Times bestseller, and he was rerouting all of the money to himself, meanwhile lying to me every single day. Where's my money? 10 messages a day. I'm on the call with the publisher. They said that you need to do this. I'm going to get it for you. Meanwhile, he had not only already collected it, he had spent it. And he lied to me and treated me like I was stupid to my face every single day. So he was caught, not even by me. This is the crazy part. The FBI caught him and came to me and showed me the evidence where he had committed wire fraud and embezzled and forged my signature. His own secretary testified against him and said he gave her a call and told her to copy and paste my signature on a piece of paper that I had never seen. So the evidence was irrefutable. I wasn't even the prosecutor. I was a witness for the FBI. I was the victim. And the second day of court, well, actually before court even happened, they allowed him to try to get the case thrown out because of my profession and because I had started my paranormal show. He made a big thing online and publicly about subpoenaing my mental health records. He knows damn well they don't exist. I'm not shaming anyone who does. I probably am in deep need of some mental health care after the trauma of seeing the orange thing naked, but I digress. But he made a whole thing saying, they subpoenaed my list of medications. Congratulations, I was taking birth control and took some antibiotics in the last 5 years. Like, I wasn't on any sort of pharmaceuticals for mental health or sleep or, nothing that would have made me forget that I signed something giving this idiot all of my money. But then he tried to say because I worked in paranormal and read tarot cards and am from New Orleans and into ghost stories and did this TV show that I must be crazy. First of all, let's say I am batshit fucking crazy and I'm licking the wall in a straitjacket. Does that make it okay for him to forge my signature and steal from me? Honestly, I think it makes it kind of worse. But that's the way they tried to spin it. And it was allowed. It wasn't thrown out. What does my even if I had a mental health file this thick, what does that have to do with embezzling money from someone? And they allowed it. They allowed them to try to find this. There's nothing, and I have no shame. But it also made me realize that this is why people don't seek treatment, because they're afraid it's going to be used against them later. And it's really devastating to think, imagine if I did have something there, if I had needed to talk to a therapist or I did need to enter a treatment facility for any reason, and then it's going to be dug up and used against me in court. That's terrifying. And this is why people don't speak out until it's too late, and then you see these mass shootings and things happen. So that's part of the thing I realized. The other thing that's super crazy about this whole story is the second day in court, Michael Avenatti fired his own attorneys and decided to represent himself. Why did he do that? So that he could take the stand and cross-examine me himself for 5.5 hours. And for 5.5 hours, he asked me questions about being in porn. So you're an actress. You like to fake things in your business, right? Isn't that what your business is all about? Faking things. So is it possible that you're faking remembering giving me literally tried to use porn against me on the stand and something that has nothing to do with that. And then asked a bunch of questions about the paranormal and tried to divert. And they let him call me names and cross-examine me and ask me these questions that had nothing to do with the case for 5.5 hours. Tell me, do you believe for one moment that if I wasn't Stormy Daniels, that would have been allowed? I don't think so. And then I did a little digging and found out that at least in the state of New York, your sexual history can be brought up against you in court, even if you're a rape victim. Luckily, that little piece of shit doesn't scare me and I give zero fucks. But imagine if the crime he committed against me had been violent. What if he had tried to murder me or he had raped my children? Like, imagine if it was like something horrific. I guarantee I would have backed down. I wouldn't have come forward. You know, eyewitness intimidation. Like, how is this even allowed? And I don't think that it would have been if I wasn't who I am.
Before I go to the floor, I'm sure many people want to ask you questions themselves. I thought I'd just ask you your opinions on a few current social issues in the USA. The US Supreme Court is looking to dismantle Roe v. Wade.
Oh, God.
In your home state of Louisiana, women could be charged with homicide if they get an abortion. What do you think about this and as a new reality?
I think it's absurd. I was asked, like, what do I think about abortions? I think more people should have had one, or at least been one. Oh, God, that's going to get me in trouble. But I think that, I mean, I wish people in the States cared as much about gun control as they do about my uterus. You know what I mean? Like, I wish the same rules would apply. Like, they make you watch these terrible videos about abortion. You have to have a waiting period. You have to have a mental health exam. You have to sign all these forms. You have to have, like, all these hoops you have to jump through for control over your own body for what is probably a very difficult decision. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. Meanwhile, it's so easy to get these other things that can impact everyone's life. And that's a sensitive subject right now, obviously, with everything that's going on. It's probably your next question, so I probably just answered both at the same time, didn't I?
Yes. I was just going to finish by asking you, so you've kind of become an unlikely icon representing feminist rights in the legal system with a big fan base on the left. You mentioned earlier as well, kind of that you've become an icon of Me Too. As a right-leaning voter, what do you think about this?
I think that both sides are completely fucking stupid. And the whole thing is in shambles, to be quite honestly. But everyone has an agenda. Everyone sitting here has an agenda. Some of us are just more shitty about it, and that's okay. But I didn't like that they tried to manipulate me for their own purposes when I was literally just trying to do the right thing. I didn't care about Republican or Democrat or race or gender or any of that stuff. I just, at the end of the day, decided to come forward and speak out because it was the truth and it was the right thing to do. And the Me Too thing is a very sensitive subject. It was the hot topic when I did come forward. And a lot of those really, really hardcore feminists and things tried to pigeonhole me into that. And there was a lot of man-hating. And if anyone's seen my videos, I happen to love men. Sometimes a little too much. And so it was a difficult thing that here I am just trying to find my voice and stand up for myself. And everyone's pulling different ways and trying to use me for their own agenda.
Great. So if you have a question, please pop your hand up and a mic will come to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I think it's a very topical thing, and to hear the story that you've given us and to hear your side as well is extremely empowering. With that said, I think we can all agree that, and from what you've said, the porn industry kind of has this negative connotation about it. And listening to you talk, there's many stories like this, but there was a student actually at Duke University who was into BDSM and porn and actually was slandered when they found out that she was in that, but it really came from kind of what you were talking about with these, just trying to make a living, trying to do these things. So I guess my question to you is how, with your position and the stories and the things that you're doing in the porn industry, how can you actually create a safe space for women and really kind of change that narrative such that it's a place that really supports women? Or is that even something that is kind of a mission of the pornographic or the films that you're creating?
Okay. That is definitely one of my missions. I have made it sort of my personal vendetta to prove that I'm more than what people think, that I'm just a dumb bimbo or a prostitute or, I can't be trusted. I really fought this uphill battle, like I was saying, being a director in the business and Now there's lots of female directors in the business. I'm pretty sure a female won Best Director the last 3 years. Is that right? Yeah. And we have lots now, and it's not even an issue. As far as creating a safe space, honestly, that starts with the public. That starts with social media. Social media is the devil. I kind of ran a social experiment the last 5 years that I didn't even realize I was running, and then more recently I've been testing it. And if not to sound too hippy-dippy or like woo, but if you guys take away anything from today, it should be about how you spend your energy. Because on my Twitter, which I'm very famous for, Twitter is my favorite sport, I have these millions of followers, and if I tweet something neutral or something positive, like come see me at this event, or I get to speak here, or I'm going on vacation, or whatever. If I tweet anything, it might get 5 comments, 100 retweets, a couple hundred likes. And if I tweet one thing nasty, if I retweet a troll with something snarky, or I say something shitty, thousands, tens of thousands. Like, people have really got into this headspace of just loving misery and loving negative and bullying. And now we're like bullying. It's pretty crazy. So just imagine if every time you could make a negative comment or hate on someone, if instead you said something positive. You don't have to agree with somebody. Absolutely not. I don't agree with most people. I don't even agree with myself a lot of times. But if we could really just shift that and try to see where somebody else is coming from, and I'm sure your parents have said this, you never really know what someone's going through. That's so real. I don't know if that kind of answers your question or not, but it really is going to have to begin not in the industry. The industry is fantastic, I have to tell you. It's the most forward-thinking that I know of. Like I said, women are treated great in the industry. You only see the negative stuff because it's sensationalized. But I've never seen anybody be mistreated on a set. I definitely wasn't mistreating myself. I've written and directed 95% of my own movies. I'm not taking advantage of myself. But it's the outside, it's that stigma that we have to be comfortable with sexuality. It's all that puritanical, I don't know if it's as bad here because I'm speaking about how it is in the States, but you can go on television or in any kind of media and see every other part of the human existence. You can see birth, a little too graphically for some times. You can see every way of dying, war, disease, murder. You can see marriage, you can see divorce, birth. You can literally see every other aspect of the human existence except for how we're created. That's the big taboo, is sexuality. And I'm not saying everybody should be allowed to watch porn. Porn is entertainment, it's not education. But you can go up to a 2-year-old and be like, pow, pow, and they know what that is. But if they walk in and see mommy's boobies or daddy's penis, oh my God. But you're gonna let your kid watch a violent video game. And so I think that it all kind of goes back to, why are we making sex and this thing that's supposed to be beautiful and creates orgasms and happiness and joy and life? None of us would be here if our parents didn't have sex. Some of us shouldn't anyway, but I think it all goes to just being open and having communication. And I don't know how to fix it. I wish I did.
Thank you very much for coming. Just what you were talking about there with the legal system, I was just wondering what you thought about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. Do you look at Amber Heard and think, okay, I actually see a lot of my experience in that? Or do you maybe think, okay, so yeah, are you more on the Johnny Depp side kind of thing?
I'm Team Depp. I mean, I think they both made pretty horrible mistakes. He's no angel. I have 2 opinions on that. First of all, watching that train wreck goes back to what I was saying. People love horrible stuff. Why are we watching this? I mean, I did. I'm not gonna lie. But, this is what we're enjoying these people's personal suffering, these horrible things. Like, this is not, you know, we probably, there'd have been less people watching if they were having some sort of amicable thing, you know. But that being said, I think that we were so quick to blame men, you know, that there's no easy answer to this. It's like we're so extreme. Like, we came back this way and we've gone too far, and the pendulum is just swinging like this, and hopefully at some point it settles in the middle. But I'm glad that everything came out. I think he reminded me a little bit of himself, you know, because he knew that coming forward and standing up, he could have not said anything, but he sued her for defamation, which is exactly what I did, knowing that coming forward was gonna, like, put him in the spotlight. All of his dirty secrets were gonna come out as well, you know. But he did what he had to do to speak his truth, and so I have a lot of respect for Johnny Depp for doing that.
It's a bit of a two-part question, and I think the first bit's probably already been answered. But firstly, you're talking about women being maybe fired or something, or judged because people recognize them. And what do you think about the double standards of people watching and
Exactly.
consuming content?
Can you say hypocrite? So it's okay for you to watch it, but it's not okay for me to do it. Exactly. Like, that would be my question if I was fired. I'm like, well, how do they know? You better have actually paid the $29.99 for it and then steal it from me if you're going to fire me as well. But yes, that was the hypocrisy of it is what drives me absolutely mental. It's not fair that it's okay for everybody to watch it, but it's not okay for us to do it. We wouldn't do it if you didn't watch it. Supply and demand, people. Supply and demand. Kind of going back to what I would like to change. So let's say you work in a hospital and you get fired because of your beliefs, your race, your religion, how you identify, even some of your medical standing, and they fired you for any of that. You would have the biggest lawsuit on your hands for discrimination, but they could fire you for having an OnlyFans, and that's okay. Do you see how crazy that is? I can get fired from a job that I paid to get an education for, that I'm possibly quite good at, maybe even the best in the whole hospital. And because 10 years ago, I paid my way through school by doing some perfectly legal adult films, it's okay to fire me. But you can't fire somebody else for being radical in their beliefs on something else.
Yeah. I was also going to ask, what do you think about more mainly being created for men and as male entertainment, and do you see that changing in the industry?
Yes. It was pretty much all for men for a very long time. It has slowly started changing, and there are quite a few companies that make adult films for women or for lesbian couples, just like there's gay film studios. It's definitely becoming more diverse, and just the influx of female directors putting the female eye, perspective, voice on movies that helps. I can't tell you how many women, and I wasn't known for making lesbian films. I worked for Wicked Pictures. It's mostly couples films, to be honest. It's got a storyline. We don't abuse women. It's more romantic. Anyway, but that's what we're sort of known for. Like, I'm not known for being this big girl performer. But I can't tell you how many times I would go to do an appearance, perhaps even at a strip club or whatever, and somebody would be like, Are you a lesbian? Because we've never had a turnout with so many women. I'm like, no, I'm just a female director. And the women would come up to me and say, like, the reason they liked the films made by women is because we made it okay for them to watch it. Like I said earlier, I'm not exploiting myself. I'm not forcing myself to do something in a scene that I wrote, directed, and picked the talent in, And so we take the guilt out, because I think at the end of the day, everyone is turned on by whatever their particular thing that they enjoy is, by watching whatever it is they like. They're visually stimulated. People tend to think it's just men who are, but in my experience, women are as well. But they have a harder time watching a film or a clip and in the back of their head being taught, is that poor girl there because she wants to be? Is she being exploited? Is this okay? And so they get in their heads and they feel guilty about watching it. And then you're like, oh, wait, Stormy directed this? Caden Cross directed this? Joanna Angel directed this? Like these female, oh, yeah, I feel better. Dim the lights, honey, you know? And so actually more men have thanked me than women by making it okay for them. My wife will only watch movies that you directed because you're a female director. But yes, I have seen it slowly changing, and I am quite pleased, actually.
Great. Should we go behind you?
So you've done so many incredible things and been through so much. What in your life are you like most proud of?
My daughter. Yeah, I have an amazing daughter who is strong and fierce and a little terrifying. And you think, this is a lot? She's me times 10. And that was the real reason why at the end of the day I decided to come forward, which was hard because I didn't see her for quite a while, and it put her in danger. She didn't get to go to school. I didn't get to see her because I purposely had to spend so much time away from home, because if I was advertised being somewhere, press was there. If I was at home, they're camped out in my front yard trying to take pictures of my daughter. And so I lost so much time with her, and she is such a little bad bitch that she was like, it's okay, mommy, other people need you more right now. And she was like 6. I was like, that's my baby. You know, and she's just the best thing that I've ever done. And then also I got to be on SNL. Don't tell her I said that.
So I'm not sure if you'll be aware, but until somewhat recently, it was government policy to attempt to try and implement a porn ban for under 18s. Mm-hmm. And obviously it was eventually stopped on the basis of technicalities and that it was essentially impossible. But sort of save that, I was wondering what you thought on something like that, and more generally on porn's effects on people underage.
This is kind of controversial. I am definitely for stricter things. Wicket, the company that I work for, just raised their age. We won't shoot anyone under 21. You know, I just think that you need more time to make decisions. Porn is entertainment, not education. And I think too many, have we all seen that that horrific fucking show, Euphoria? Can we say, that is birth control. I look at that and I want to lock my daughter in a closet. But there's so much, there's a specific scene in that where the guy is having sex with his girlfriend for the first time, and he's extremely rough with her, and he says, well, I saw that on, Pornhub, and I thought that's whatever. No, I think that it goes back to you really need to have communication. But until we remove the stigma and the shame from not just sex, but our bodies and nature, and that, then kids are going to try to find a way to, they're curious. You tell them no, and they're gonna do it twice, And so I actually do support, well, it's gotta begin with better parenting, but that's probably too much to wish for. But I do think that they shouldn't be exposed to that until they have a full understanding of how it should be medically, scientifically, and you work up to that. Did you take your driving test in a Ferrari? You don't hand a toddler the keys to the race car, so to speak.
And just sort of jumping in before we go to the next question, do you sort of envision a way that sex education can be better?
Yeah, they need to teach it in schools. They need to have, and not just saying, they need to remove the religious shit from it. Because saying don't do it in abstinence and showing these graphic videos to scare people, it's not gonna work. They need to have very open and frank conversation. I think it's better here. The States is definitely in the dark ages when it comes to sexuality and having conversations about it. I mean, I just don't understand why you can show these horrific deaths and end of people's lives and things like talking about Amber Heard shitting in her boyfriend's bed. But you can't have a conversation with your child about where he came from. It wasn't a stork. Trust me, I know. There was no bird. It was horrible labor, but I think that we should have these conversations.
I'm just wondering, as an American, but more as an individual, are you worried that Donald Trump could be president again after 2024 and what that might mean for you personally?
fucking terrifying. You should all be afraid. I mean, he does have the nuclear codes, right? If he becomes president. I actually do think he's gonna try to run again. And does anybody want to get married for a green card? Because I need to get out fast. I'll be taking applications, because if he gets elected, I think it's gonna make his followers and supporters. I don't fear him personally. He doesn't scare me. It's his rabid fans and followers that, I mean, they're way more scary. And so, anybody want to get bunk beds, or because I need to relocate?
Hi, it's kind of carrying on from this question. It's kind of been like scientifically proven that increasing violence in porn makes men specifically increasingly more violent in the bedroom. And I just kind of want to ask your opinion on this increasing culture of violence in sexual content and the kind of ramifications that has for women and men.
Yes, that kind of goes back to what I was saying, is that because we're not having the other side of that, these truthful, open communication and conversation, that since that's the only thing that people are seeing, they're taking it as fact. And I like rough sex. I don't judge anybody else for what they want, as long as it's consensual, of course. It is entertainment, but the problem is that we have this entertainment, and just like anything else, it's getting pushed, you know. We want instant gratification. We want supersized meals. You know, the action movie that came out 10 years ago sucks compared to the stuff. Human nature has become more extreme in everything, to want more. And so the entertainment side is getting more and more extreme. And it goes both ways. It's not just violent sex. Like, we're seeing higher end production values. We're seeing more like women produce stuff. We're seeing more of whatever that thing is. But what's lacking is that other side. We're not seeing more communication. We're not seeing more education. We're seeing, they're taking away Roe versus Wade. Do I need to say anything more? Like, they're defunding Planned Parenthood. They're making it murder to have an abortion in the state of Louisiana, which is where I'm from. Like, we're going so backwards this way, but this trajectory is moving forward, but we don't have that balance. And so, yeah, you are correct. The more violent things that are shown, but let's not make it about porn. More violent video games and movies are causing what? You know, it's anything. It can be applied to anything. But you are correct. I agree with you.
So I've got two questions. Firstly, would you consider doing reality TV in some form?
Would you consider doing vanity TV?
Reality TV?
Reality TV? Yeah. I actually already have. It comes out, hopefully, gonna keep changing the date, September of this year. I'm on the new season of VH1's Surreal Life, which is not the train wreck it used to be like 12 years ago, which is probably before any of you were old enough to watch that, because, oh God, I'm old. But they revamped, they did a reboot of Surreal Life, and we filmed it last summer. We were in Mexico for 12 days, 8 celebrities, and it was not the sex party, drinking train wreck it used to be. It was about people who had a story that the public didn't actually know about. And it was me and Dennis Rodman and CJ Perry, who just got fired. She's a wrestler. Frankie Muniz, who from Malcolm in the Middle. You know, people just thought he's a child actor. They don't know all these other great things he did. So yes, I already have done reality TV.
And also, what do you think of the Free Britney movement?
The what?
The Free Britney movement.
The Free Britney?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I identify a lot of what she went through. A male was allowed to make decisions for her and take away her voice and her power, and they worked, lawyers got together behind her back, and that's exactly what happened to me. You know, the text messages that were read in court when I went against Michael Avenatti earlier this year are just insane. Like, there was literally message conversations between me and him where he was telling me one thing, and 30 seconds later, he was texting somebody and calling me, oh, she just got, because then the literary agent's like, Stormy's blowing up my phone. She's asking about her money. And instead of that literary agent coming to me and answering my calls, went to the man who was in charge. And then they were like, oh, she does do porn. She probably just got confused. Getting confused is forgetting where you put the $20 bills in your jacket pocket, not what you did with 300,000. And so I just identify with a woman who is seen as just an object and having her rights and things taken away. Now, more on a personal level, she seems like she could use a friend right now.
Okay, we'll have one final question. Okay.
But at the end of the day, you know what? It's her money, just like it was my money. And if she wants to take it in the backyard and set it on fire, one thing has nothing to do with the other. Just like saying that I hunt ghosts, it makes it okay to steal from me. It's hers. She earned it.
You said about the media and the press reframing you by your job role first. What would you say is the responsibility of people that work in news and media in regards to stories about sex workers, and how can they change making stories that are biased in a way that isn't helpful to people in this industry?
I have such a disdain for journalists. It's all I think the integrity of being a journalist has really gone away. I dated a journalist for a while, and he's no longer a journalist because of that reason, that there's just no integrity. It's all about clickbait. It's all about sensationalism. And they get paid. They get paid more for clicks, so nobody wants to lose their job. They want to get, the story. Paparazzi, they just have no respect for who somebody is. And I think a lot of that is social media. People can hide behind their computers. The humanity is really taken away, and it's disturbing. But I think that it's important for them to see us as human beings, not our jobs. I know that I was so pissed that they kept saying my real name that I am solely responsible for the New York Times no longer printing it. They won't ever say my real name again, and the reason for that is no one asked me what I wanted to be called. And there was actually female journalists and female women who went the opposite way and was like, say her name. Stormy is a sex name. Say her name. And I was like, no, don't say my name. Bitch, shut up. Like, no. But they were so on their own agenda that they felt like I'm supporting her by saying her real name. I'm like, no, you just gave people a way to Google my house and take pictures of my kid. You would never see, no one thought to ask me, well, you did today, thank you, what name I wanted to be called. But you don't ever see someone who is like trans being mislabeled. Can you imagine if someone who identified as a woman but was born a man, and the every article said, but originally born with a penis? Like, can you imagine? That would never happen. So it's kind of this like, ask what they would like, and don't be a dick. Whether you have one or not, just don't be one.
Well, on that note, if you'd all join me in thanking Stormy for being so open and honest.